Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Legends of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse, brought to us by Sega. Legends of Illusion is one of the 4 of Illusion games that were released on the Sega Genesis and the Sega Master System and Game Gear. Land and Legend of Illusion were released exclusively for the Master System as well as the Game Gear. Both versions are identical to one another, except the Master System, since it had a longer aspect ratio, you can see a little bit more of the screen than you would have been able to on the Game Gear. In Legend of Illusion, Mickey, who is actually a member of a kingdom ruled by the evil King Pete, is sent off to get the Water of Life in order to bring peace back to his kingdom. And here we go with Legend of Illusion for the Sega Master System. Legend of Illusion does change up the formula from the previous 2 games released on Master System and Game Gear, changing up Mickey's attack from using his butt stomp ability to actually giving him a soap bubble to throw. The first place we travel to in Legend of Illusion is the Castle of Goofenstein, in order to meet up with King Goofy. We are introduced to the main mechanics of the game, which includes lifting up different types of boxes in order to place them down so we can jump on top of them to get over certain platforms, as well as getting used to throwing out our soap and being able to take enemies out with it. There are a few different items to collect throughout Legend of Illusion, most of which will either give us points or a little bit of extra health. After the first stage of the game, King Pete is informed that whoever gets the Water of Life will actually become king and ruler for life. So now Pete is dead set on stopping Mickey before he's able to complete the goal that Pete sent him out for. The second level in the forest, we climb over a few little rocks and watch out for a few phantom arms sticking out of the ground, and then we have to pull and push a couple of rocks over so we can work our way to the top platform. Inside the different treasure chests are the points, as well as sometimes we'll find donuts and cakes. Donuts and cakes will both replenish a little bit of health. If you get an extra health item, while you already have full health, the health item will actually go into your menu that you can see at the bottom of the screen, in which case you can go ahead and use that later. After using a snake to help us jump up to a platform, we climb across the vine, avoiding some snakes that are using some bubbles to float upwards, and then a few helpful possums help us along. Over here, wait for the bubble to come out of the water so that you can use it to jump up to the platform and complete the second level of the game. The third level of the game is in Duckingham Palace, where we were told that King Goofy went to in order to find King Donald. As you may have been able to tell already, the levels in Legend of Illusion end up being a little bit shorter than the ones in Land of Illusion, as well as the difficulty isn't as hard as that one. In Duckingham Palace, make your way over to this gap area, then drop down and pull out the S block so that the M block falls down. Then bounce across some S blocks in order to get over here. On the far right, you'll have to pick up this M block, and then use it in order to get the two S blocks to come out of the wall so you can jump onto them. Climb across both sets of ropes in order to get to this open door, and find the first boss battle of the game. This boss ends up being a ghost enemy, and it's pretty easy to fight. As soon as it appears, pick up the block and launch it at it, and if you do so quickly enough, it won't be able to get out its main projectile out, and won't be able to actually hurt you. It only takes 4 shots to take him out, and you end up saving King Goofy. After meeting up with the Sphinx, as well as King Goofy, we now head to the Sunken Ruins in order to try to locate King Donald. Be careful of the moving tornado enemies, but you can still take them out with just one simple marble throw. In the second room, you'll have to pull out the block with the arrow on it in order to get the wall to disappear so you can continue on. Make a large jump over the gap so that you can continue on without falling down. Over here, use the ladders to climb up, and then jump up to the lever on top to pull that in order to get the blocks to go back into the wall so you can get over. Move through the rotating platform and hold right so you can get to the door to take you to this water area. It's a little bit hard, and I always end up getting hit at least one time by the coral that is sticking out of the ceiling and floor. Wait a few seconds for the spike ball to move along the chain so you can sneak by without taking any extra damage. Inside the next area, climb up the blocks to get to the lever, and continue moving upwards, then jump to another lever so you can switch the blocks back and forth and get over to this side. Climb up the last few green blocks and then head to the left in order to find King Donald. After meeting King Donald, we now also get another item which increases our health, as well as we have two choices now. We can either go to the Rainbow Wastelands or the Crystal Caves first. Each level, though, must be completed and both contain a key that we need. The Rainbow Wastelands is an interesting level, and it happens to be one of the only scrolling levels in the game. We'll have one more later, but it's a little bit different than this one. In this level, there's a set pattern of enemies, pretty much. You start off by having cactuses fly at you by bouncing across the ground, a shark that'll pop out of the ground which you can throw one marble into its mouth to defeat it, a couple of fire enemies, as well as a skull moving across the ground being moved by a prairie dog. Watch out also for when you take out the sharks that a couple of crystals will start falling from the sky. After 2 full sets of the enemies, you'll complete the area and move on to the boss battle for this level. The boss battle is this large caterpillar-style enemy. When it leans forward and opens its mouth, that'll give you the opportunity to stun it, in which its whole body will then turn white, allowing you to take off a piece of it. Each time it changes colors, it will end up using a different type of enemy that you met throughout the stage. Green for the cactus, blue for the shark enemy, and then you'll have a red for fire. Just be sure to also jump over his head because the little antenna that stick out of the ground when he moves underground will also be able to hurt you. Once you take off each of his sections, his head will fall down to the ground and a key will appear. Grabbing it will complete the stage. The Crystal Forest is a much longer stage and is a little bit more of a maze than the previous levels that we've dealt with. Watch out for the DNA strand style worms that are throughout the stage, which take 1 marble to take out. After moving across the first moving platform, you'll come across a chess piece moving back and forth. Throw one of your weapons out at it to break the crown on its head so you can jump on top of it to get to the platform and then enter the next door. While moving up through the area, you'll see a couple of prisms set up with different colors coming out of them. While we don't have to do anything with the first few, the one in the next room we will have to change up a little bit. In this room, walk over and grab the crystal on the right side. Then jump up and drop it down here, in which case it'll cause a block to appear, allowing you to climb up. Break the rock over to the left so that another crystal will shoot out a light, allowing you to climb up to this area. Once again, you'll have to break a crown on one of the chess pieces' head so it can bounce across the spikes with you on top of it, so you can get to the door on the far left. In this room, there's a large amount of suspended water that you can actually move through, kind of like a gelatinous cube. You can swim through it to move through quickly, but be careful of the few enemies that are going to be in there. You'll have a few more of these gelatinous style cubes in the next room to deal with as well. Down here you'll have these weird teleporters that will keep causing you to fall and fall. While falling, break the 4 rocks on the right side, which will cause a door to appear so you can go through. Climb up, and then you'll find a few of those moving platforms made of crystal. Jump on top of them and just ride them along as they move along the track. In the next room, you have a couple more of those track moving blocks, but there's going to be a rock in the middle of the path at some point that's going to stop you and end up causing the platform to move back. Destroy it so that you can continue on. I usually end up having to at least land on the spikes once during this area, but once you reach the left side of the bottom, it's time to move on to the boss battle. The boss for this area is a large lion head that bounces around the room as well as has a few attacks including shouting out the letters of roar. If you're able to hit one of the letters, you can jump on top of it and hit it right from there. If not, you're going to have to wait for it to teleport back and forth across the screen, eventually stopping, allowing you to hit it, and then it'll move back and forth across the top of the screen and swoop down at you, allowing you for another shot. It'll then go back to the center of the screen and start using the letters of roar again. It will take 5 hits, but it has a very simple and easy to learn pattern, so it shouldn't take too much trouble to take him out. Once he's done, you grab the second key and we move on to another level. Leaping off the cliff, we're now in a new map area, and we start off in the Garden of Illusion. At the beginning of the stage, take out the spider enemy, and then you can jump to the platform that was spinning along with him. Move over to the left, avoiding the crab as well as the hummingbird-style enemy, in which case you can bounce off a mushroom to get to another spider. Do the same to that spider, and continue on, bouncing across some leaves. When you get over here, drop down and be sure to pick up the Mickey block, and then bounce across the mushroom. Throw the Mickey block so you can take out the enemy if you want to, or if you miss, just try to get past the hummingbird enemy and use the Mickey block to jump over the platform. In the second area, keep making this platform spin as music notes come out. The final music note will start sparkling, showing you that you can now jump on that one to get up to the top, and then bounce across the music notes that you caused to spawn and complete the stage. The next level ends up being a pretty fun stage as it works as a scrolling shooter. You still have the same basic attack, but you're now riding on top of a giant dragonfly. Stay across the top of the screen as it has pretty much the least amount of projectiles to really deal with. You'll have to keep hitting the up button because you will slowly start to float downwards if you just let it stay still. After a few shooting stars, you'll move down to the second part, which has these large spheres in the middle of the screen that will try to get in your path. Hitting them will cause them to explode into a firework. Back in the sky, we now have some more falling stars, as well as the stars that are just standing still. Take out anyone that gets in your path and just dodge back and forth on the ones that are flying. Finally, watch out for a few moving pieces of pollen before we reach the end of this area. On the next screen, Mickey will be alone with a beaver enemy, but he won't actually attack and just stands there laughing at you until you actually attack him, which causes him to turn into a wizard. This is one of our big showdowns of the game. The wizard starts off moving across the top of the screen and has a force field around him. He'll either do one of two moves. He'll launch a fireball at you, in which case you'll just stand away a little bit from it after it fires directly towards you, or he'll do a lightning bolt attack. With this, he'll try to strike lightning down wherever you're standing, so if you keep moving, you'll be able to dodge it. After each one of these attacks, he'll stop it, getting rid of the force field, and he'll swoop down at you, allowing you to deliver a hit to him. He only has these two moves for most of the battle, so just get used to dodging the lightning and fire, and being in a good spot so you can still hit him when he swoops down. Even if you're really quick about it, you can only hit him one time when he swoops down, or else the second attack will just go right through his body. When he launches out a spike rock, and just drops it in the middle of the screen, you know he has only one hit left. We then go to the second part of the boss battle, this red dragon. The dragon opens its mouth at start, in which case you can throw one of your items into it, causing it to spit out a fireball that's inside of a bubble. You can then jump on top of the bubble and jump on top of his head, in which case he'll then fling the spike ball up into the air and on top of his head. He has the same pattern over and over again, and your biggest threat is after you've delivered your hit to him by having him hurt himself, he will spit a fireball directly at you. As long as you can dodge this, and keep launching the soap bubbles into his mouth, you shouldn't have too much trouble allowing him to actually hurt himself and end up killing himself in the end. It'll take a little bit of time for this battle to end up being over with, but just keep ducking underneath him when he flies over top of your head, and be ready to launch that soap bubble into his mouth. After delivering the final hit, you may think the game's over with, but we still have 2 more levels to deal with. The next level is the Falls of Fortune, which is actually a level that contains no enemies. In this stage, we move along collecting different jewels. These jewels end up affecting the ending of the game, as you'll get a slightly different ending if you collect all the jewels. After collecting the first few, drop down, work your way over to the right, and then you'll have to climb up this rope to get up here to collect these couple of jewels. Continue on, moving down the long slant, and then jump over to the left area. You don't really have to climb down the rope here, just fall down to the left so you can grab the 2 jewels along the ground. Be sure to climb up the rope on the right though so you can get this green jewel up here. Climb this rope all the way over to the left side to grab this jewel and then fall down the opening gap. You'll collect a blue jewel over here and then a white one over to the right, and then you'll either want to jump off the side or climb down the second middle rope. If you don't feel like climbing back up the rope, you can take a quick hit by landing on the spike, since it'll be the only thing that hurts you throughout the stage, in which case you've now collected all the jewels and a rainbow will form. While Mickey has completed his goal, we end up now having to go back to the kingdom, in which case we now find Pete is quite angry with us. Our final stage of the game is actually only a boss battle against Pete himself. King Pete will stand still on the right side of the screen to start the battle, in which case he'll wink a little bit and throw a bomb at you. Be sure to jump up into the air and grab the bomb, in which case you can immediately launch it back at him in order to hit him. He'll then get his legs moving and run across to the opposite side of the screen. Just be sure to jump over him with a big long jump so you can completely clear his body, and then get ready to catch another bomb and launch it back at him. For our final boss, this ends up being probably one of the easiest final bosses in video game history. Just be sure that you can keep jumping over him long enough and you should have no problem dwindling down his health slowly, because it will take a lot of bombs to finally beat him. Once we finally deliver the last bomb shot, Pete has been defeated, and we can enjoy the ending to Legend of Illusion. While Legend of Illusion is probably the weakest of the Illusion games, it still ends up being a pretty fun and enjoyable platform for both the Master System as well as the Sega Game Gear. And with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.